Welcome to the Mind Spark, bringing you the latest news from around the world. The global balance of power is shifting. While Washington looks inward and to Europe, a new economic bloc has quietly emerged, stretching from China to the Gulf. This is not just another trade deal, it's a $25 trillion alliance linking China's manufacturing, ASEAN's growth, and the Gulf's energy wealth. Together, these nations represent nearly a third of the world's population and a massive share of global output. China brings technology and infrastructure, ASEAN offers young workers and resources, the Gulf supplies energy and capital. This self-reinforcing network is increasingly resilient to Western economic pressure. The bloc is moving away from the US dollar, creating new financial institutions and settling trade in local currencies. It's a quiet rebellion against the post-1-2 order, not anti-American, but post-American, a real-world multipolar system. This isn't a military alliance, but its economic and political weight is immense. These nations are choosing to deepen ties with each other, redrawing the world's map of power and influence. The center of gravity is shifting east, and the world must take notice. This alliance is the product of a decade of strategy and shifting geopolitics. China's Belt and Road Initiative, launched in 2013, built the infrastructure for a new global network with Beijing at its center. Meanwhile, US America First policies and trade disputes pushed China to seek new partners and markets. China turned to Southeast Asia and the Gulf, regions eager for investment and less tied to Washington's agenda. ASEAN nations drawn by Chinese investment and market access joined massive trade deals like the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, forming the world's largest trading bloc. In the Gulf, countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE saw their economic future in Asia's booming markets, launching Look East policies. The Gulf's shift wasn't about abandoning the US, but about diversifying partnerships and securing long-term prosperity. China became a reliable customer and partner for post-oil development, something Washington couldn't match. The result? A pragmatic, mutually beneficial alliance reshaping the global order. The numbers are staggering. China, ASEAN, and the Gulf Cooperation Council together form a $25 trillion economic zone, rivaling the US and surpassing the EU. This bloc is home to over 2.3 billion people, a vast market driving global growth. China provides technology and financing for infrastructure. ASEAN nations are the world's workshop, with young, growing populations. The Gulf states, once just oil suppliers, are now global investors, using sovereign wealth to fund tech and logistics across the bloc. Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, for example, is investing billions in Chinese EVs and Southeast Asian e-commerce. Recent deals, like China and Saudi Arabia's petrochemical complex and new high-speed rail links, show deepening integration. Currency swap agreements, such as between the UAE and China, allow trade in local currencies, bypassing the dollar. These are not isolated events, but the foundation of a new, integrated economic reality. The bloc's scale and cohesion are transforming the world economy. This alliance thrives on practical, interlocking interests, not formal treaties. Infrastructure is key. China's Belt and Road has built ports, railways, and highways that connect Asia to the Gulf. These projects reorient economies eastward, creating seamless supply chains from Vietnam to the Middle East. Energy trade is shifting too. The petrodollar system is eroding as China and Gulf states settle oil sales in yuan. Every barrel sold in yuan chips away at dollar dominance. Technology is another pillar. Chinese firms like Huawei and Alibaba export not just products but entire digital ecosystems. In Southeast Asia and the Gulf, Chinese apps and platforms are becoming the norm, creating a digital Silk Road. Financially, the bloc is building its own architecture. Institutions like the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and Gulf Sovereign Wealth Funds offer funding on their own terms. Countries no longer need to turn to the World Bank or IMF, they can secure financing within the bloc. This parallel system gives members more autonomy and flexibility. The alliance's strength lies in its ability to set its own rules and priorities. It's a new model for global cooperation, networked, pragmatic, and increasingly self-sufficient. The China-ASEAN Gulf axis is sending shockwaves through the global system, challenging decades of US-led order. This bloc acts as a powerful diplomatic force, united by a preference for sovereignty and non-interference, contrasting with Western priorities. Economically, the world is fragmenting into competing spheres, each with its own supply chains and standards. Companies and countries now face a choice: align with Western or Eastern systems, or try to play both sides. The alliance is building alternatives to US-controlled choke points, from overland trade routes to non-dollar payment systems. American power isn't gone, but its levers of influence are less effective. The US must now compete and persuade, not command. This new bloc is a network, not a hierarchy. China is central, but relationships are transactional and based on mutual benefit. Developing nations may find this model more attractive than traditional alliances. The alliance offers a vision of global order based on pragmatic, project-based partnerships. The world is moving toward multipolarity, and the rules are being rewritten. The challenge for the West is to adapt, not resist. Experts offer diverse views on this seismic shift. Dr. Parag Khanna sees it as a return to Asia's historical economic centrality, not a hostile takeover, but a natural correction. He argues that Asia's collective resurgence is driven by supply chains and demographics, forces that can't be reversed by Western rhetoric. From the Gulf, Dr. Abdul Khalik Abdullah describes the Look East policy as strategic necessity. The US remains a security partner, but Asia is the future for energy, investment, and technology. This isn't about choosing sides, but about building resilience and autonomy. However, some, like Elizabeth Economy, warn of risks. China's investments often come with strings attached, potentially eroding the sovereignty of smaller nations. The short-term gains in infrastructure and trade could mean long-term dependence. ASEAN voices like Kishore Mahbubani stress their agency. The region isn't a pawn, but a central player, maintaining relevance to all major powers. ASEAN's strategy is to create stability and prosperity, making itself indispensable to both East and West. The new alliance is an extension of this approach, about opportunity, not subservience. These perspectives highlight both the promise and the pitfalls of the new order. The future will depend on how each player navigates these dynamics. The alliance is not monolithic, it's a complex, evolving network. Its success and its risks will shape the next era. The rise of this $25 trillion bloc puts the US at a crossroads. America's response has been confrontational, tariffs, tech bans, military alliances, but these haven't slowed Eurasian integration. The alliance is built on trade and development, areas where the US has offered little alternative. To compete, Washington must move beyond security and present a positive economic vision. The abandoned TPP was such a vision. Its absence left a vacuum China filled with RCEP. The US needs to re-engage on trade, offering developing nations a real alternative, one based on transparency, innovation, and growth. Competing with Belt and Road means investing at home and with allies, and delivering better, more sustainable projects. The US must accept multipolarity, aiming to keep the new bloc open and constructive, not exclusionary. This requires cooperation on global challenges, and a shift from dominance to partnership. America's future role depends on the appeal of its vision, not just its power. This alliance is reshaping societies, not just economies. Chinese engineers and managers are now common from Jakarta to Dubai, while students from ASEAN and the Gulf flock to Chinese universities, forging lasting bonds. Cultural fusion is visible in cities. Mandarin is heard in business districts, Chinese cuisine sits alongside local fare, and Asian art is celebrated in Gulf museums. Chinese tourists boost local economies, while grassroots exchanges foster mutual understanding. But rapid integration brings challenges, local resentment over jobs, and concerns about the social and environmental impact of big projects. Governments must ensure growth is inclusive and sustainable, so benefits reach beyond elites. The alliance's success depends on managing these social dynamics as much as economic ones. The most enduring legacy may be the personal relationships and shared experiences being forged. A new generation is emerging with a worldview shaped by these new Silk Roads. They are the architects of a new global identity. We are witnessing the birth of a new world order, defined by economic corridors and shared development, not just military alliances. The China-ASEAN Gulf bloc offers a powerful alternative to the American-led system, with Asia as its center of gravity. The implications are profound. The dollar's dominance is challenged, and diplomacy is shifting as a third of humanity coordinates outside Western forums. The rise of this alliance marks the true beginning of a multipolar century. The West must adapt, competing and cooperating in a more complex world. The new map is drawn by trade, data, and investment, not armies. The choices made now will shape the coming era. Will it be one of conflict or a new, more balanced globalization? The stage is set. The next act is ours to write.